Jane. Today we are going to discuss about layers of OSI model. Let's go into the topic and we can see the little introduction about OSI model. And as we know, it's a 7-layer architecture and we can also call it as open stand systems interconnection. It is introduced on 1984 by ISO. And let's see the layers of OSI model. There are 7 layers of OSI model. Physical layer, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. The lower level of the OSI model is physical layer. Topmost layer of OSI model is application layer. Let's dig into each layer of the OSI model. The first one is physical layer. Here we can see the connection of the devices. The main functionality of the physical layer is responsible for transmitting the bits from one node to another by connecting the devices. When you connect the devices each other, the data is in the form of signals. And the physical layer, what it do, it converts the signals into zeros and ones and transmit to the second layer, which is the data link layer. And the main functionalities of physical layer is bit synchronization. Bit synchronization is nothing but the number of bits transmitted on the sender side should be the same on the receiver side. Both should have the same number of bits received and sent on both ends. And bitrate control means the number of bits transmitted per second, so that bit synchronization can be possible on both sender and receiver side. The next thing is physical topologies. What kind of a topology that we are using connecting the devices in physical layer? Either it is a bus topology, star topology, or tree topology. And the transmission mode, either it is a simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. And then the next layer is data link layer. The main responsibility of data link layer is node to node delivery. And the main functionality of this is error-free delivery from one node to another node over the physical layer. So for this, it uses the MAC address, which is a 48-bit address, and also we can call it as Ethernet address, hardware address. It's burnt on NIC, which is NIC card, Network Interface Cards. And data link layer is subdivided into two, which is logical link control, media access control. Higher portion of the data link layer is taken by logical link control. What it do? It identifies the network layer protocols. So here source IP, destination IP means IP address is added in logical link control. And media access control frames has been identified and how it sends the data to the destination or received from the upper layer by using the MAC address, which is a 48-bit address and it is unique for each and every device. What are the main functionalities of data link layer? Framing. This is the main functionality of the data link layer. Physical addressing, once the frames are formed, then this address has been added into the data link header of the frame. Error control, if any frame has been damaged or corrupted, again it retransmits the frame. This is the benefit of error control. Flow control, at constant rate of flow, it transmits the frames from sender to receiver. And once data is received from the network layer, it's sent by using the MAC address. In case if data want to send to the physical layer, the frame has been encoded into signals by the form of zeros and ones. Because physical layer understand only the zeros and ones, uh, then it decoded into zeros and ones, which is bits, and send it to physical layer. This is about a data link layer. Let's see into the next layer. The next one is network layer. Let's see the network layer. The main responsibility of network layer is transmission of data from one node to another in a different network. In what data link layer do? It transmits the data from one node to another in the same network. So it was used MAC address in the layer 2 network. Network layer, which is a layer 3 network, what it uses? It uses the IP address. Every device in the network layer have the IP address, which is a 32-bit address or 64-bit address. It's a unique identifier over the network. What it do? It concerns delivery of the data packets from source to destination, and also it takes care of the packet routing, how the packet has been sent over the network. So for that, what it do? It places the sender and receiver IP address over the header of the packet. And I forgot to mention, in network layer we can call the data as the packet. The main functionality of the network layer is routing. For routing, we use the routers, and logical addressing, which is the IP address to identify the sender and receiver by using the IP address. And in routing, routers, what it uses the protocols to find the shortest path to send the data over the network. That's all about the network layer. Let's see the next layer, which is the transport layer. Transport layer, this is the main heart of the OSI model. It takes care of the main responsibility of transport layer is end-to-end delivery of the message. What is the difference between network layer and transport layer? Even transport layer is responsible for delivery of the message, even the same for network layer. What is the difference between two? And the transport layer, it it delivers the data not only to the sender, and it also sends the data to the application or process that running on the sender's device. That is the responsibility of the transport layer. Both do the end-to-end delivery, but network layer do the delivery of the data at the sender to the sender, but transport layer delivers the data not only the sender but also on the process or the application that runs on the sender's device. That is the main responsibility of the transport layer. And in this data, the data in the transport layer, we can call it as segments. Once we send the data, if it receives to the destination, we can also get the acknowledgement by sending the acknowledgement. In case if you didn't the acknowledgement, it transmit the data, and for this we can use the TCP UDP protocols in the transport layer. TCP is a connection oriented protocol. Once we send the data, uh, for successful data transmit, you will get the acknowledgement. And UDP is an unreliable protocol. We can discuss the TCP and UDP protocols in further sessions. And the functions, the main functions of the transport layer is segmentation, flow and error control. At receiver side, segmentation, reassembly, service point addressing. Segmentation means once you receive the data from the network layer, the message can be divided into smaller parts of the unit. That is called the segments. Means large number of data has been divided into smaller parts of the data is called the segments. Flow and error control. So what it do? It breaks the uh, big message into the smaller messages and send it over the internet. Service point addressing. So we can use the protocols, which is TCP UDP protocols has been used for service point addressing. Then let's see the next layer, which is session layer. The main responsibility of the session layer is to establish the connection and also maintains the session, synchronize the session, then authenticate the session, and also ensures the security. So this is the main responsibility of the session layer. So for this, it uses the checkpoints. See, once enable the session, it requests the session. Once it is enabled, it responds the session. The main functions of the session layer is session establishment, maintenance, and termination. What it do? As per the data received from the transport layer, it create a session and maintain the session and terminate the session. This is the main responsibility of the session layer. Synchronization is possible by the checkpoints and also dialog controls. That's all about the session layer. Let's see into the next layer, which is presentation layer. So presentation layer, we can also call it as a translation layer. The data has been extracted from the application layer and it convert into the different format, send over the internet. Convert the data from one format to another format and send over the internet. That is the main responsibility of the presentation layer. So here the data is received from the application layer. Encryption encodes the data and also compress the data, reduce the number of bits present on the data and send it to the session layer, next layer. From session layer, what it do? It decode the data, decompress the data, decrypt the data, send over the application layer. This is the main responsibility of presentation layer. The functions are translation, encryption, decryption, compression, decompression. For encryption, decryption, we can use the key to encrypt the data and decrypt the data. That is why the data is secured when we are sending over the internet, because encryption, decryption takes place in the presentation layer. Let's see the last layer, which is the upper layer of the OSI model, application layer. This is the top layer of the OSI model. We can also call it as a desktop layer because it's close to the user. It's mainly implemented on network applications like a browser, Skype, Outlook, messengers, any application that we are using and giving the inputs, WhatsApp, Facebook. These are the examples of the application layer. Simple words, it's an interface with a computer application. And also it contains the variety of protocols required by the users. The main functionalities are network virtual terminal. So if you use the RPC, you can create a remote connection. FTAM, file transfer, access management. You can access the files, transfer the files, manage the files over the internet. Mail services, which is email services. Addressing, for addressing DNS has been used to map the names to the IP address. Directory services, authentication. Username and password has been used for the authentication. This is the main functionalities of the application layer. As we have seen the each layer of the OSI model, and let's see, this is the overall OSI model layers. So let's see, in physical layer, data is in the form of zeros and ones. We can call it as bits. In data link layer, the data is in the form of frames. In frames, we use the MAC address. Network layer, data is in the form of packet. We use the IP address. transport layer, data is in the form of segments. From session layer, we can call the data, we can call the information as a data. Okay. On the left side, as you see in physical layer, we have used the cables, and the main protocol that we have used only the cables, which is coaxial cables, RJ45, DSL, RS232, and media. The data is in the form of signals, and in the data link layer, the main responsibility is physical addressing, and we can use the protocols of HDLC, PPP, token ring, ADM, Ethernet. And in network layer, we use the IP address. The main functionality of the responsibility of the network layer is path determination and logical addressing. For logical addressing, we use the IP protocol, and also we can use ICMP, IGMP, OSP, or BGP, EIGRP protocols. In transport layer, it's the end-to-end connection and reliable delivery, not only to the destination, to the exact process that running on the device. For this, we use the TCP, UDP, SSL, TLS. TLS is a transport layer secure, which is advanced version of TCP. And in session, the main responsibility of the session, establish the session, maintain the session, and terminate the session. So for this, we use the RTP RPC for communication. Presentation, it converts the data from one format to another, either audio to text format or text format to audio, JPEG to MP3, any format. In an application, the information that we given to the network processes. And the main protocol that we use, HTTP. For emails, we use the POP, Telnet for the remote connection, FTP for file transfer, DNS for addressing. That's all about the layers of OSI model. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.